Hello and welcome to the third in our films about painless personal statement writing. My name is Melissa Mehta. I help students prepare for their interviews at Oxford and Cambridge and other elite universities. With me is Liz Reece, who has a huge amount of experience helping people write their personal statements, amongst other things. And I thought it would be really useful to make this series of films to help people prepare their drafts for the time they get back to school in September. So we are on step 3. So by now, if you've been following the videos, you will have gone through your brain and collected a list of things that might be relevant to your personal statement. So they might be things you've studied at school, they might be wider activities you've done outside school, and a mixture of all of those things. So you did that in film number 1. And then in film number 2, you sorted that list of activities into 2 piles. One pile was anything that you've done that either immediately obviously relates to the course that you're wanting to study, or is just very academic relating to the course you want to study. So things like work experience at an elderly person's home if you want to study medicine, or an excellent essay you wrote for German if you want to study German. So that's one pile, that's a big pile, about 75–80% of the outcome. But it doesn't matter if it's not quite that yet. And then the smaller pile are bits of information about yourself that will make a wider case for your suitability for the course and to be studying at university. So you've got those 2 piles. That was one of your bits of completed homework from last time. And then the other piece was you being a detective and going to the course website and having a look to see if they tell you what attributes they're looking for. They may or may not do that, depends on the university. So if they didn't give you that much information, you would then have to just use your initiative and create a list of the characteristics they're looking for, whether it's people being original thinkers or very analytical or very enthusiastic about their subjects. So you've got that list, and then you've got your 2 piles. So what we're going to do now is go a bit deeper into the 2 piles and ask yourself a question that a 5-year-old child might ask you. And that question is, so what? So what? You wrote an essay, who cares? And the reason we ask that question is that it's not necessarily obvious to the reader why this brilliant essay that you wrote for geography, why that makes a case for you being offered a place to read geography. What your job is to really make it really obvious to the reader why that essay is really unequivocal evidence that you should be offered a place. So what you have to do is you have to ask yourself, so what, like a 5-year-old. So as an example on the so what's, you might have written a superb essay for English literature. And the 5-year-old says, yeah, so what, you wrote a superb essay, who cares? And you say, well, you know what, it was an essay about a historical novel. And I didn't study history at GCSE, so I didn't really understand that period of history. So I had to go away and read some books. And having read those books about that period in history, I could better understand the motivation of the characters. And it completely changed my reading of the book. I had to go and read the book again, and my essay was transformed by my new knowledge about that. And that just demonstrates how committed I am. You wouldn't necessarily say this explicitly, but it demonstrates your commitment to wider research and detail and the importance of character motivation. So that's the so what, that's why it's a big deal. But you have to get there, you have to work out what that is, rather than just saying, I wrote a superb essay. Okay, so I hope that makes sense as a starting point. Liz is now going to give some more examples and detail on that.
Lovely, thank you. Yep, so what? Well, here are some examples. For example, you went on work experience. So what? So did you go perhaps for healthcare, where it's really important that you've done and taken some experience within the sector? And it's not just about seeing people do the job that you think you might end up doing, but it's about reflecting on the interrelationship between science, perhaps, and medical improvements. So you might reflect upon your understanding of your classroom biology or chemistry, and how that connects with some of the developments with people's care. Similarly, you might be able to reflect upon the value of the bedside manner. What does that mean? Do some people do it better than others? Working with relatives even, perhaps when one of their family members is about to die. So there's an awful lot you can observe and reflect upon from work experience. If you're more interested in something like business or economics, perhaps you've been to see some different companies, and you can compare what different people's behavior is within the companies. You can actually look at whether size matters, and you can consider characteristics and skills developed, such as risk-taking, decision-making, different communication styles. So work experience is well worth reflecting on, and those are examples of where it's directly relevant to the course. More academic examples, perhaps you've done some an academic extended essay, perhaps you're interested in engineering and your essay relates to some scientific principles that you've been testing. So explain what you've learned, explain how you went about the procedure, how you tested a hypothesis. It's very important to convey in some of the more practical course applications that you're good with your hands. So maybe your dexterity in experiments is something you want to get across as a skill that you're good at. If you're applying for something that you've never studied before, maybe philosophy, then do look at the subjects you're studying at the moment and look at the skills that you want to convey that are relevant to a philosophy application. So let's think. So philosophy, you would expect to be able to pull together an argument using different sources to actually construct information and make it make sense, often with balance. Perhaps you're doing that in humanities courses that you're studying, maybe English or history or foreign language, or perhaps you're doing that in science where actually you're bringing together different arguments, because not everything is black and white in science, and you're conveying a message that way. So you're thinking here, what have I got to offer? How does it relate to the course which I'm applying? I'm going to use one example just to finish, and this is from LSE's website, because they're particularly good at explaining what it is that they want to see in your personal statement. They're better than many other leading universities. So I'm reading to you now. For government, we are looking for an original and well-written statement which demonstrates your awareness of and genuine interest in current political issues. Cut. Right, so I'm talking to you now as a student. Perhaps you've attended a talk, perhaps you've been involved in a debate, and you can describe how that developed your interest in current political issues and your own views upon it. So that's just one very short part of what they say they're looking for. Go back to the websites for the courses you're looking for, pick out what they want, and see how your experiences can give them what they're looking for.
Lovely, thank you. So at the beginning of this film, hopefully, if you've done your homework, you'll have your lists of things about you, and you'll have your detective list about what they're looking for. Using the so what to link the two, you're going to pad out your two piles, and you will start to draw in attributes that they're looking for. And I suspect if you originally were concerned that one of your piles wasn't big enough, so the academic and course related pile wasn't big enough, doing this process will make you think about different things. So as an example, you know, when you were talking about dexterity, Liz, I was thinking about someone who's applying to medicine and has been thinking about things to do with people and science and putting all of those things in their statement. But through this process, they might think, actually, dexterity is really important for a medic. Maybe mentioning my model airplane building is now relevant.
Definitely.
So hopefully you can, I think we said in the first video, you'll keep finding new things to talk about here. So yeah, so have another go at it. See where you get to. Don't worry if it's way too many characters than you're going to end up with. In the next video, we're going to talk about how you can start cutting it down. But for now, that's it.